This is the Misdirected Mark podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, and you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Okay, we get to the bridge of the Stratoblaster. What do we see?
Okay. The bridge is lit by a pinkish purplish glow. All of the monitors show cartoonish images of the asteroid belt.
Oh no.
And you see a familiar purple dwarf hovering in the air, and he spreads his arms wide and he says, "I'm back! It's me, Zorky!"
Son of a bitch.
I shoot him.
That never works.
Doesn't matter, I shoot him.
Seriously? Okay. Just like last time, your plasma disc becomes a colorful butterfly a few inches from Zorky's torso. The dwarf pulls a frown and says, "Is that any way to treat your friend?"
Well, you're not our friend, Zorky.
You're nobody's friend, Zorky.
Ouchie. You're wounding me.
No such luck. By the gods, I hate this guy. Whenever he's around, all the fun disappears from the game.
Whoa. Hold on a sec. Do you guys really not like Zorky? I mean, like, Jerry and Bob, like, I know your characters don't like Zorky, but, like, do you guys not like Zorky?
Yeah, he's a cosmic jerk.
Oh. Ooh, wow. I didn't realize that. I wish we had a way to discuss that.
And with that, welcome to the 457th episode of the Misdirected Mark podcast. Tonight we discuss using Cosmic Jerk in your tabletop role-playing games. On the way, we're going to take your comments, examples, and suggestions live from the chat room for life on Twitch, before jumping into the after show. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan. All right. Also, we would like to just point out as a friendly disclaimer, Misdirected Mark does not endorse or condone the use of Zorky anytime or anywhere.
Can we trademark Zorky? Drop them in your game. We'll make some stats. We'll make stats for Zorky in any system you want.
No.
Jerry's a hard no on this one.
Hard no.
Yes.
All right, time for our temperature check. See how everybody's feeling. Phil.
Physically, feeling good today. Was a little wiped out the last day and a half. I have been boosted. I am also now a vaccine chimera, having now both received the initial Pfizer and got a Moderna boost. So, and on top of that, my natural antibodies from having COVID in October, I am like the Long Island iced tea now of antibodies. Like, I'm like just a whole bunch of shit thrown in a glass. But I'm feeling better. I was exhausted yesterday. I will say, even though they said it was only a half dose from the normal dose, I didn't have any other symptoms, but I was exhausted all day yesterday. I took like 3 naps yesterday, essentially. I was pretty wiped out. So prepare yourself.
That was kind of my, not quite as bad. That was my experience. I had my booster last Wednesday, just the day after the show, and had a similar thing where I had the flu shot and the COVID shot. And 2 days later, I was just tired. I was like, not like collapsing tired, but just I could feel myself. I was tired all day. And that was really it. Didn't stop me from doing anything, just felt tired.
Oh, I came home. I made dinner for my daughter. I took her to Taekwondo. I dropped her off at Taekwondo. And then I came home and I slept for like 2.5 hours. I woke up at 10 yesterday. I did I packed for Thanksgiving. And then I laid on the couch and watched How I Met Your Mother for like a couple episodes and then just went to bed. That was my whole night, man. I was like wiped out. Anyway, physically, I'm fine. I feel much better today. I have only the slightest remnant of the arm pain from the initial injection. It was really sore yesterday. It's pretty much gone now. And mentally, I went to therapy today, so I'm actually feeling pretty good. Like therapy was good. Helped me kind of focus on a few things, and kind of put some like stars into alignment, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm doing all right overall. Bobo, how's you?
So I got my booster and my flu shot today, this afternoon at 12:30. And my right arm where the flu shot went is sore as hell already. other than that, I've been having this. I don't have my reflux under control because I've been having a real problem with reflux issues and coughing from it. So I'm on the cough drops again for the show. Hopefully I won't break down like last week. Mentally, I'm a pretty solid, like 6 out of 10, maybe a 7. So not bad at all.
Okay.
Jerry.
I'm like I said, I'm feeling pretty good. It's just looking forward to a 4-day weekend.
Yeah.
I'm in pretty good health. I'm awake, and mentally, it's been one of those weeks where I show up at work and then get nothing done all day, but get a lot of stuff done, just not what I planned, and that's okay. So as long as I get things done, just even if it's not what I want. So it's good. So I'm excited.
Awesome. All right. Let's roll into the one thing then. So at the request or at the suggestion of multiple people, I had queued up The Good Place as the next show that I was going to watch in short form television for watching during lunch and stuff like that. So since I finished Community, I started up The Good Place yesterday. It's not going to make it to the weekend.
No,
This show is so well written. The characters are amazing. The story is amazing. Stuff is happening. Like, I had no idea what I was getting into. I knew it dealt with themes of heaven and hell. That was all I knew going in. And boy, has this show blown my mind. Especially certain points of it where it's like, what just happened? So I'm like, to the point where I started watching yesterday and I was just going to, watch a little here and there. And I kept going, oh, I need to know what happens next episode. Oh, I need to know what happens next episode. I got up this morning with 22 episodes under my belt already.
Wow.
So 22 episodes yesterday. And today I killed all the way through the rest of season 2 and 3. So I've got one season to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm baffled.
Hey, I'm just going to tell you I'm getting word from Senda and Andy that they can't see us. And I'm not getting any confirmation that
something happened.
You know what? I'm not seeing it in the chat. I'm not seeing it in the. Yeah, it says we're offline.
Okay, I don't know what happened, but after I went live earlier and we started the show, something happened and the stream died. I just restarted it.
Okay.
There we go.
What happened.
We're just going to keep going. People who are watching us live will just join us where we are.
That was weird.
So that's fine.
Well then.
So that's fine. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, we'll let that catch up with everybody.
Yeah.
So yes, you have slayed The Good Place.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Season 4 left to go, and like I said, that won't make it to the weekend. So and then I'll be looking for another show to watch. Jerry, what about you?
We played the last of our story arc for Basin, which is the Free League publishing 1890s horror investigation game, which is a lot of fun with GM and friend of the show, Glenn Seiler. And it was just a really good game. Basin is kind of like Call of Cthulhu or Chill or something like that, but most of the solutions have nothing to do with violence. Like you can get killed and you need to be able to do certain things, but the horror and the solutions are more interesting. Like in this case, we were at a haunted inn where a young girl was basically being possessed by a ghost to perform a really dark play, and people kept getting killed in the inn. And it turns out that her great-grandfather had murdered somebody there and murdered a witch there and buried her body in an unconsecrated grave. So the actual solution was just go find the body, dig it up, give it a proper burial, and everything gets resolved. So it's not a case of you've got to go fight the ghost or anything else. Yeah, it's basically keep moving around so the ghost can't get you, work as a team, solve the mystery, and then do the thing you need to do. And so it was a good game with some interesting resolution. There are some things you can fight in it, but most of the resolution for the monsters is going to be something like you've got to discover the folklore behind the creature and then satisfy that, maybe it's an evil fairy who just wants 8 pieces of iron that's been touched by a priest. Okay, so you got to go find iron and get a priest touch it, that kind of stuff. So it'll be those kind of adventures. Played very well. It's a free league game, so the game mechanics are pretty simple but fun. Just had a good time with it, so I'm looking forward to it. We're taking a hiatus till after the holidays, but I'm looking forward to getting back into that again. So it's just a lot of fun this week. Phil?
Nice. We started work on a new game that we're going to play. So we're going to do this Cortex Prime game. One, because a number of us want to learn Cortex Prime. But two, we've been having problems finding a game that really resonates. And after some discussion, we really talked about just we all want something that is just super positive, that's exciting to play, but good people doing good things kind of thing. And so I had basically just half-assed thrown out this idea of super geniuses traveling in a sentient spaceship solving problems for planets around the galaxy or something. And you guys were like, that sounds like a good idea. What would that look like? So I was like, I don't have a clue. So we had this session. I don't even want to say it's session 0. It's session -2. Where we just made up our background. We just sat down and we threw that rough idea on the table, and we just talked about questions well, what do we think that means? And what about this? And what about that? And eventually we came up with this, I think, really kind of cool sci-fi setting that's kind of a mash of a number of things that I like. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit of season 3, season 4 disco. It's got a little bit of She-Ra stuff in terms of first ones. It's got a couple, it's just, we didn't draw directly from those things, but I think a lot of things like that got put into the setting, and it's, but essentially that's what you guys are going to be, is you guys are going to be super geniuses with this sentient starship flying around and stopping disasters and helping people, and stuff like that. So I have my work cut out for me, because I actually now need to write out a setting for this. And then our session -1 is going to be, as a group, we're going to build the Cortex Prime rule set we want to use. And then we'll actually have a session 0, where we actually make characters, go through character gen and all of that. So I'm excited. We don't really have a name for it yet. I've code named it Aux from the name of the ship Auxilium. One of the things I liked, and I'll just mention this before we bow out of the segment. One of the things I liked was we just decided that Latin would be our replacement language for all things from the previous civilization. Rather than making up words or whatever, we were just cool, Latin is the substitute language for all things from this other civilization. So I'm why Latin? I have no idea. Andy Fox is asking why Latin. I really don't know, other than it sounds cool. I think Latin sounds pretty cool. Because
one of the players really liked a bunch of things in Latin and just kept running with them, and it worked well for everybody.
Yeah, it wound up just working, right? It just as we talked about it, it was oh, that word sounds cool in Latin, and so and it's fine because it's not the default language for the game, it's the language of the previous civilization. And it'll be very distinct, because then it's quite distinct when we hear it or use it, that those words are that's where those words came from.
Sorry.
So, cool. Anyway, that's my one thing. I'm kind of psyched to kind of mess around with all this. Also, we haven't done, I don't want to go too far into this, but we've been playing a lot of games as written for a while, right? It's just kind of a thing. I mean, it's a thing I like. It's, I'm very much about, in terms of understanding a designer's intent, playing games as they were written. And I think that's cool. But like, we haven't played with a game in a while. Like, we haven't like stretched some rule sets or made our own stuff or just kind of taken it in our own direction in a long time. And I'm also kind of looking forward to that. Like, I'm looking forward to just playing, like playing with the rule set, playing with the world, all of that stuff. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Cool. Let's roll out and roll into some announcements. We have one, I think we have one announcement for this week, right?
Yep. Just one. Go ahead. Do you want to talk about it? I can do it.
Take a chair. I just finished talking.
While we are recording live this week, and this show will drop next Tuesday, there will not be a live recording next Tuesday. So this show will be dropping next week on the 30th.
Correct.
But there will be no recording on the 30th, so there will be no show dropping on the following Tuesday. However, we will be recording on the following Tuesday, so there'll be no live show next week.
Correct. So no show drop. So show drops on the 30th. No show drops. There'll be no show dropping on the 7th. Though for our live listeners, you can come watch us live on the 7th of December.
Yes.
There we go.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Well, that brings us to our feature segment. Phil, are you ready?
Yes.
Begin.
Workshop! We're opening up the Adversary files. It's the Cosmic Jerk. They're annoying. They're super powerful. There's nothing your players can really do about it. If you do it wrong, you're just going to torture them for a whole session. But here, tonight, in the workshop, we're going to show you how to do it correctly.
Yep.
And don't suck.
Man, I don't think that was my best, man.
That
I
one
don't think
went
that
long.
was my best. I'm not saying I don't think I felt it.
We've had worse. Don't worry about it.
So, this all came up because in a previous episode, we talked about New Mutants Annual number 3 from 1987. This focused on the appearance of Impossible Man, who is a powerful and annoying Marvel character who has an unlimited shape-changing power. This got us discussing the challenges of that type of character, and this led us to a new category for the Adversary file, the Cosmic Jerk. So tonight, we're going to open a new file and discuss what is one of the trickiest types of adversaries to run well. So, let's get started.
And of course, we're going to need to define this adversary before we get started. So,
behold, you are in the presence of Definition Panda.
Well, hello. Let's build a definition for Cosmic Jerk, since there isn't one in the gaming dictionary. Starting off with the word cosmic, inconceivably vast. In terms of what we're talking about tonight, we're going to use cosmic as a short version of cosmic power, meaning an inconceivably vast power. Often cosmic power, if it is defined in games, includes things like matter and energy manipulation, like really broad, sweeping uses of that power, like large scale, like creating stuff from nothing, being able to, create, destroy energy, matter, all that stuff. In essence, having this kind of power lets you do like almost damn near anything. Jerk. A contemptibly obnoxious person. I like that a lot, actually. It's a great definition. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. The person, the jerk, is annoying to be around and acts in ways that makes it hard to be around them. A jerk may intentionally or unintentionally hurt feelings, harm people, those kinds of things. The merger of these two things is a terrible combination, which makes the Cosmic Jerk a contemptibly obnoxious person who has inconceivably vast power, like a billionaire. Just saying. If you're looking for an Earth equivalent, a billionaire is like a Cosmic Jerk. Anyway, Jerry, there must be some examples we can draw on, right?
All right. Now, unlike a lot of our other adversaries, there's not a ton of these. We have some good examples from media. The quintessential one is, of course, Q from Star Trek. the Next Generation, Voyager, Discovery, or Voyager
No
and
Discovery.
DS9. Thank you. We have Trelane from the original series. We have the aforementioned Impossible Man from Marvel. Some versions of Loki in the Marvel universe. Mr. Mxyzptlk from DC Comics, thorn in the side of Superman. And then you've got some that have lesser powers, like Alastor from the new Has-Been Hotel cartoon, the Great Gazoo from the Flintstones. Basically, these are people with vast power and a tendency to just kind of annoy the main characters.
So I have to say, before we jump into this, just going through this list, that much like Jerry, I hate most of these characters in media. Like, there has never been a DC comic or anything where Mr. Mxyzptlk showed up and I was like, oh, yay. More like, oh, man. Like, Now, my notable exception to that is Q, which is why we have anything to talk about in tonight's episode is because of Q. Nearly every example of that we're going to talk about tonight about how to make the cosmic jerk palatable is inspired by Q. Otherwise, most of the time, I'm just like, good grief.
Not a surprise.
All right. So we know who the cosmic jerk is now, but Jerry, what makes up the cosmic jerk?
All right. Well, it's a tricky adversary to have in your game because the trick is you want them to be a challenge, but one that the player characters have a chance of dealing with in one way or another. And so in order to figure out how to do that, we're going to need to dive into what makes the cosmic jerk. So here are some attributes of the cosmic jerk, starting with the two most obvious features. And there's more than two here.
I mean, starting with.
Yes.
The first one is the jerk has cosmic power, right? The cosmic jerk has some sort of power. It's large in scope and magnitude, broad in application, right? In essence, they can do nearly anything. They are way out of the character's power levels in terms of a direct confrontation, right? Like the cosmic jerk would be a thing that you could just, blast into pieces. That would be a great solution. But in most cases, that is not anything possible for the players.
All right. Second thing is that they're a jerk. Their personality is one that annoys the characters and most NPCs. This could be for any number of reasons, but a good starting place is that they don't need anyone. Their power makes them self-sufficient, so they never need to be vulnerable. They never need to ask for help. And in most cases, these characters are self-absorbed, narcissistic, and selfish. They generally don't have a sense of things like personal privacy or consent or respect. They're kind of bullies.
Yeah.
They think things are funny, even if nobody else does.
Yep. They can be omnipotent. Vast power often comes with vast knowledge. The cosmic jerk may not only be powerful, but may also be a know-it-all, which only adds to them being unlikable. This knowledge could be helpful to the characters, but it's almost always delivered in some sort of condescending way that makes it not worth getting the information.
All right. Next, they're often immortal. Their vast powers either grant them immortality or makes them very, very difficult to kill. And if so, they've lived a long life and accumulated a lot of experience. And this experience also feeds back into them being omnipotent.
It's a bad cycle.
Yes, it is.
They are often bored. Mm-hmm. Turns out having unlimited power can get boring after a while. So the cosmic jerk just starts heading out to look for new experiences. And these experiences are often not good as they are inherently jerks and do jerky things.
Yep. Sometimes they like to adopt things. Due to their incredible power level and sometimes near omnipotence, they often look at lesser life forms and take an interest in them the way that we do as pets, i.e. the player characters. This could also be what ultimately saves someone from their vast power and from their terrible personalities.
Yeah. They often lack commitment. If one of these adversaries was actually determined to do something, nothing can actually stop them. They're omnipotent, immortal, have, unlimited power. Like if they just put their mind to it, like they could do it. Mm-hmm. And because of their vast powers, they don't really have to do hard work. So they're not really accustomed to doing hard work. So they often put the minimal effort in, and often that effort's fleeting, which also is the thing that will probably save the characters over time.
And lastly, they may answer to an even higher power. While many of them look godlike to the characters, the cosmic jerk may not be the apex predator. They sometimes have organizations or groups that they answer to who may have rules that restrain the cosmic jerk. This may also be something that saves the characters down the line.
Absolutely. So now that we know how they tick, Phil, is there an appeal to the cosmic jerk?
That's a tough question.
Because there's a whole lot of meh in this room right now.
I think there's some appeal to this adversary, but I don't think this adversary is for everyone. I think that there are other entries in our file that are far more appealing. This is not one of them. I think the cosmic jerk they're their most appealing when there's something actually likable about them, and when their antics don't outright stifle the characters. When it comes to personality, like think about Loki and Q, right? Like there's a charm to both of those characters, even if they're jerks. There are like a ton of good examples of like how Q shows up in Trek, causes a whole bunch of chaos, but never inflicts damage directly to the crew, right? Like he doesn't like just like take someone's arm off or like, turn somebody into a head or anything like that. I mean, like one time he froze somebody, but like that was in the far point. Like he could literally blow up the Enterprise or the Alpha Quadrant, right? Like that's well within Q's power, but he doesn't, right? Like he attempts to quote, teach humanity, right? They're not ready for things by exposing them to stuff, at least in early TNG, right? And even that still sounds pretty bad as it goes. So I think that when it comes to the cosmic jerk, like you got to go softer than harder with what they do, since they can do nearly anything. And if you want them to be appealing, they can't nerf the characters, right? Like they can't just come in and be like, I'm turning off all your powers. Right? Like nothing's worse than, and this is, I know Jerry and I both share this pet peeve, but if you're playing a supers game and your cosmic jerk shows up and immediately turns off the character's powers, that is not cool. Like that is not a fun afternoon of gaming. Okay. Anyway. So ultimately, is the cosmic jerk likable? I think it's hard to say. I think some people will like the cosmic jerk. I think a lot of people won't. And if you have any shot of this character being likable, it is all in the personality. It is the trick to make them both a jerk and likable jerk.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of the issue is why they consider be amusing is that there are times that they're amusing to read about or view. When Impossible Man shows up in that New Mutants issue, Phil, you mentioned you liked how Warlock kind of solved that problem at the end.
Yeah.
You and Bob both really like Q a lot. But while they're fun to read about, they're often not as much fun to actually encounter as a player.
I wholeheartedly agree, right? I think where normally we jump into the adversary files where we're like, you should absolutely run one of these in your game. I am more like, I don't know. Like, maybe you should run one of these in your game.
We're going to talk about ways to use them in a way that won't annoy your players also. We're going to talk about that in a few seconds.
Yes, it's still a tightrope, though.
Yeah.
It is very much tightrope.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're the GM and you're feeling bold enough to try to pull this one off, how do you best use the cosmic jerk in your game?
All right. First, you can use them as opposition. As you've been saying, they're a tough adversary to make enjoyable for your players. A little too powerful or too much of a jerk, they're just going to feel hopeless. They're going to dread this opposition. So with that in mind, here's a couple of suggestions on how to make them a more workable adversary.
Yeah, so first thing, give the cosmic jerk some likable personality elements, at least for the players, right? Yeah. The characters may not like this this character, but the players have to like this character. Mm-hmm. Think about Q in Star Trek. No one actually in Trek likes Q. The audience likes Q.
Some of us do.
Some of them. Even then, right? Even then, some of us do, right? Like,
yes.
But it's not like Riker and the guys are like, oh man, Q's back. Like high five, right? Like his appearance in the show is always met with, ah, hell, right?
Yep.
Like even Janeway is prepared for when he arrives the first time, right? She's like, oh, I went to a lecture about this guy, right? Like no one's excited to see him. It's the audience that likes him. So you got to do the same thing. You got to make your players find something amusing about this character.
Yep. All right, number 2, they should not be openly hostile to the characters. Let's face it, if the jerk doesn't like them, they can wave their hand and just kill almost all of them off. Instead, the jerk has to have some reason for not being overtly hostile. It could be that they secretly like the characters. It could be that the powers above forbid direct intervention. It could be that they see the characters as their only avenue of achieving something, all on the way.
Exactly. They're not as direct opposition. They are there to sow chaos or create challenges. There isn't anything the Cosmic Jerk can't do, but they are amused at watching lesser creatures have to deal with things, right? So the best way to think of this is like your cat and the laser pointer, right? Like you enjoy watching your cat run around trying to chase the laser pointer, even though your cat is incredibly frustrated. And I remember the first time I did it to my cat, I turned off that laser pointer. My cat stayed in the same spot for 20 minutes waiting for the laser pointer to come back. I felt terrible. But that's how the Cosmic Jerk is going to like view the characters, right? Like, oh, look, run around, run in circles. Haha, look, you're so cute. Look at you chasing that thing around, right? So the jerk's going to create things for the characters to deal with and then observe, right? And if you've really got a little gravitas to this, might also have a running commentary, right? Q was especially good at this. Like as the crew of the Enterprise was trying to deal with stuff, he'd pop in and start saying something to Picard about it, like, oh, it's looking bad, Jean-Luc, right? And, and then you have to shoo him away kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. The Cosmic Jerk is a really good way, though, to do some off-the-wall things in the game, like change genres, locations, adversaries, tone, everything along the line. Think about the Q and the Cupid episode in The Next Generation. The session changes that whole session just changes genre, and for that whole storyline, it's just there so that Q can prove his point about Vash and Picard, and gives them something that they can do that's a little different from the show. Or in the episode Tapestry, when Q allows Picard to relive his life and make different changes, and that gives a chance to do it. Was that?
I love both those episodes.
I don't like Vash, so it doesn't work for me. But anyway,
I protest, Captain. I am not a merry man.
That's
still
good.
one of the best lines in the series. Okay. No one to show mercy with the jerk's antics. If you wind up overwhelming the players with a challenge, let the Cosmic Jerk just undo it. The Cosmic Jerk is not a reason to have a TPK.
No.
When the Borg crushes the Enterprise in Q Who, and Picard turns and recognizes they need help, Q just solves the problem with a wave of his hand, right? Yep. Just whoop, it's all fixed. Not everybody lives, not everybody who got killed lives, but he returns the Enterprise, puts it back together, returns them safely to the Alpha Quadrant. Show some mercy. When you need to show mercy, show mercy.
Yep. He's still responsible for killing lots of people. Anyway, on occasion, you want to let the Cosmic Jerk help the characters out or give them some sort of a present. Because even jerks can sometimes be nice. It's part of their trick. Have them, often after creating some sort of chaos, thank the characters by giving them something or using their powers on their behalf. Like when Q allowed Data to laugh.
I mean, I love that scene. If your Cosmic Jerk is going to be recurring, a fun thing you can do is turn the tables on them and take their powers away. All right. One of my favorite Q episodes is Deja Q, where Q loses their powers. And this often exposes that the jerk can't do much because of how much they rely on their power. It also lets the player show the jerk that they're not as lesser as they think they are, right? I think it's a fun episode because Q still helps with the problem, and he ultimately comes up with the the way to solve the problem, but he can't fix it himself.
Mhm.
Right? Because he's just like, oh, just change the coefficient of gravity on the moon. Right? And that inspires Geordi to come up with the solution, but Q can't do it for them because he's without his powers.
And also a chance for the characters to show that they are not as spiteful as Q. I mean, they've got him at their mercy, and all they do is really lock him up. They don't take any sort of revenge on him. They don't abuse him. They don't do anything horrible to him that they could have done when he was without his powers. Because they're not those lesser characters. They're better. That's where they show once again that they're better than Q.
Yes, they get the moral high ground on him.
They do.
I do love guidance tests to make sure the Q's really mortal.
Of course.
Stabs him with a fork.
Understandable. All right, and if your cosmic jerk is recurring, then give them more about the society, the powers above them, how they interact, who they might have to answer to, and what rules they absolutely have to play by. If they're going to come around, use some of that time when they're there to explore some of their culture. Think about the episode in Voyager when Q's appearances had more to do with the issues regarding the other Q and the continuum as a whole. Gave a lot more depth to the character.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think they did the right thing and they just popped Q in and out of DS9. Right, like DS9 wasn't really the right tone for Q. Like they just popped him in, popped him out. Yep. But I do think that the writers did a good job with Voyager, where they were like, "Well, we can't do the normal Q antics. Like Q's done all that stuff before. We need to do some other things." And that one with the I forget the name of the episode, but the one with the Q that wants to die.
Yeah,
like that's a hell of an episode.
It's really good.
Like it may be one of the best Q episodes, like in all the series. And it's a lot more about the continuum and stuff like that than it is about Q being just a cosmic jerk. Cool. One final trope we can touch on, which, as if this whole thing wasn't tricky, but this one's even trickier, is the idea of the cosmic jerk granting cosmic power to one of the characters. Like, this could be fun, kind of, but it also can be prone to disaster.
Yep. So, if you're going to give a player unlimited power, understand that they may upend some of your campaign with that power.
Even in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Like you may be thinking like, well, I'm going to give them some power to like do a couple things. And their first instinct might be, I'm going to wish Baron Von Badass away. Like, but Baron Von Badass isn't even in this adventure. Yeah, fuck it. But I got like infinite power. Like, fuck, Baron Von Badass is gone. Sorry, keep going, Jer.
No, that's exactly it. So you have to be ready to reverse that later. Find a way to reverse the snap. Or just be ready to roll with those changes. Whatever you do, make sure you get those powers away from the character very soon. Or make that character into a new NPC. Don't let a player roam around your world with that power for more than a single story, unless you're ready to deal with basically campaign-changing consequences.
Yeah. And I mean, you'll be surprised how fast a player can rack up those changes. Like, your players have a wish list of things for the campaign. If you give one of their characters unlimited power, they will burn through that wish list very quickly.
All of a sudden, all gold is highly volatile when exposed to oxygen.
I regenerate at will. I know all spells now.
Yeah. I
have unlimited spell slots. Like the number of breaky things that could be done with a player with cosmic power is pretty terrifying. Even the good ones. Like, don't underestimate how much damage a lawful good character can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
With unlimited power. Like, I'm just going to create order for all of the world. Boom. Like,
nobody can ever die again.
It's a tight walk because you might want to give them that little taste, but like you said, you got to be prepared to take some of it and just flip it back once the cosmic jerk takes the power back or whatever. Like, we're just going to undo all of that, or
that episode of Star
deal
Trek
with the consequences.
Yeah, that
What's
episode of Star Trek where Q gives Riker the Q power, right?
Mhm.
This goes to Jerry's thing where sometimes these things are more interesting to watch than to actually have occur in a role-playing game.
Mhm.
Because Riker gets the power and is like, I'm not using it. No, I'm not using it, right? And he succumbs a little to it, but ultimately gives it up, right?
Yep.
I don't think most players are going to give it up.
Most players would try to do something in the moment immediately to do something impactful with all the best of intentions usually. But like you said, this is one of those things where it could all go terribly wrong, or you may just have to deal with some stuff. If a character, like you said, decides, okay, I have cosmic power now, Baron Von Badass just dropped into a volcano, he's dead. Okay.
Yep.
Well, guess what? Baron Von Badass's number one lieutenant is way worse. Baron Von Badass always had a little tendency to monologue a little too much. He was just a little bit unhinged, like Goofy, and you know, he would build in his own failures just by his actions. But his lieutenant, total rock solid badass villain, and now he's in charge.
That's the difference between what's his face, Curly, and Johnny Ringo.
Yeah.
Johnny Ringo is a way worse person.
Oh, yeah.
Tombstone reference, by the way, everyone.
Yes. Yep.
Johnny Ringo's a way worse person, and when Curly dies, like, it's not good. Like,
Curly Bill even comes out and says, I shudder to think what'll happen when Ringo runs this outfit.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
All right. So all that
man, I want to watch that again now.
You say that every time we mention Tombstone.
Damn.
I agree.
Consequences are part of the fun.
It's such a good movie. All right, we gotta
is.
get back on track. Sorry.
Yep. Go ahead.
So we have a handle
All
on a
right.
cosmic jerk as an adversary. Phil, can they be an ally?
I mean, sure. You could have a cosmic being be an ally. Right? The thing you got to be wary of as an ally is like, it's super tempting to just have them solve every problem for the players, right? It's super tempting for the players to be like, boy, this is hard. I wonder, you know, if Zorky could help us out. Hey, Zorky, right? Like, so like, it's best to use the cosmic jerk as an ally. Like, if you're going to do it, they have to be hard to reach and unreliable. Like, you can't summon Zorky just by calling him. Right? Like, otherwise the players like have like an immediate fiat that they can summon. It's way too dangerous. And they absolutely cannot be a regular member of the party or easily accessible, right? Like you cannot just get Zorky whenever you feel like it.
Yep.
I think you even see this in the Flintstones, right? Like, I don't think like Gazoo shows up when Gazoo wants to show up, not when Fred and Barney wants Gazoo to show up. Like, when they want him to show up, he's like always not available. Right? You just can't have the players reliably summon them, but you can have them occasionally show up and offer a hand, right? Jerry, you got an example of like a good way to have them show up?
Okay. The party's about to be TPK'd, and the jerk shows up to tell them something that they found and just pauses time for just a second so they can stand there, kind of mock the players a little bit, harass them, but at the same time, the players are healing up and get their act together so that they can re-engage the fight and deal with what's coming up. Maybe the cosmic jerk even changes the stakes a little bit in a way that's amusing to them, but does it in such a way that the players have a chance to not just be TPK'd.
Yeah, like, oh man, look at you guys are in a pickle. Like, wow, like, are you guys gonna die? Like, Zorky, yes, we're gonna die. Oh goodness, that seems terribly inconvenient. I need to tell you about this quasar I saw.
Yeah, don't have them just show up and save the characters. Have them show up and give the characters a chance to save themselves.
Yeah, like while he's showing you the quasar, they're all like taking, you know, stim packs to heal themselves. Like,
yep.
Cool. All right. Well, now that I showed it to you, I got to run. You guys have fun, and then time like resumes.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all healed, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah. So something like that, like that's a good place for where the powers of the jerk can I'm sorry. There's a good place like where the powers like for the jerk have some limits on what the jerk will do for you, right? Like if you can get a hold of the jerk, like the jerk may or may not, like, you know, isn't going to just solve your problem like with the simplest way.
Right. Yep. For example, I can make burn badasses vanish for you, but the council looks down upon direct eradication of lesser creatures, you know, minor people like Baron Badass. So perhaps I could direct you to the enchanted blade that will help do the job for you without actually doing it myself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I blanked on my own text there. What I meant to say was like, this is where the powers that control, like that are above the jerk, like this is a good place for how to limit the jerk's ability to help out.
Yep.
Right? The continuum doesn't let you just wipe stuff out.
And I think that points out something that's important to have that we didn't actually point out here. The jerk should always have some sort of rules that it has to follow, whether they're self-imposed or whether they're imposed by somebody else, or whether it's just something that they're not even aware of. But you need to have them have some sort of limitations or rules so that the players can have some way to outthink them at some point and make them follow their own rules. Even Q has this issue where there are some things that they won't do just blatantly. They're going to follow certain things, regardless of the chaos they cause and the thousands of people that die because of their actions. They still follow certain kind of guidelines and rules.
Yeah, for Q, it's often more that Q doesn't do stuff, or you know, they outsmart him. Especially Janeway outsmarts him by the holding the continuum over his head.
Mm-hmm.
Like the continuum will look poorly upon this.
Those are the rules they have to follow. Yep.
Yeah, and that's in the Cupid. I think that's the episode, right? That's that's what happens. Q loses his powers because the continuum takes him away from him as a lesson, right?
I thought Cupid was
I'm sorry. Cupid's the one with Vash.
Yeah, but Cupid, that's the Robin Hood one, right?
Yes, Cupid's the one with Vash. The I forget. I just said the name of it like 2 seconds.
I think it was Q-Who.
Q-Who, right? That's the one where the continuum's like, you have broken some rules. We're taking your powers away for a little while. And they were content to let him die until he did something heroic. And then that's when Corbin Burnson shows up and is like, oh no, like you've shown some sort of growth. Like we're going to have to give you your powers back. I like the fact that Corbin Burnson also was a Q, because if you ever watched LA Law in the 80s, Corbin Burnson was also a jerk on that show. So it was very fitting that he showed up as a Q. Anyway. Okay. If the cosmic jerk is not all powerful, perhaps they need the PCs to help them accomplish a task or overcome a different adversary.
So, for example, Lord Mischief might be master of time and space, but this time they're up against something magical, and that's out of their control. So they're going to yank the characters into an area that the characters have to deal with a problem that Lord Mischief themselves can't deal with.
Like, you deal with magic all the time. Solve this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So in all, having an ally like this can be a huge advantage for a group of characters. So you really want to rein in what the cosmic jerk can and will do for them. Like, this should not be an easy button for the game.
Right. So that's our overview of the cosmic jerk. But we're going to take a break and check with the chat room. Before we do, Bob, as always, is going to tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Yes, tonight we're going to talk about the Gnome Cast. A bunch of gnomes from Gnome Stew get together, sometimes with special guests, to talk about gaming topics and themselves in an effort to entertain you and to avoid being thrown into the stew pot. Ow.
True that.
Good times, good times.
Good times. What do we got? I see the chat room's been talky.
Mm-hmm.
They have been talking.
They gave us a bunch of good examples of some.
Sorry.
Backlund 23 mentioned another one from the DC universe, Batmite.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Batmite is absolutely a character that, like, when it showed up, I was like, what the?
Yeah. Turns out that Batmite is from the fifth dimension, just like Mixelplick, but apparently Batmite is a fan of Batman and comes in, sets up weird scenarios so that Batman has to jump into action so that they can watch Batman work. But Batmite's a good example of the kind of character that you could use as an ally in your game. And it's a great one for the comic relief ally. They come in and they're like, I'm going to help you. And then they fuck everything up and it goes pear-shaped and you've got to deal with other consequences and unintended things and everything just kind of like gets out of control.
The Queen mentioned Zelos from Slayers. Slayers is a D&D style anime about a very powerful sorceress, her / warrior, and her dim-witted bodyguard, and the people they encounter.
Cool.
I don't know a lot about Zelos, but I remember the name. That's about it. But again, another character like that. And Professor Fox brought up a couple things. One of them was if you're going to give a player in the party ultimate power, what do you do with the rest of the party? How are they going to deal with it?
Right.
And the Queen pointed out something that I think is good to discuss, which is when you give your players ultimate power, sometimes you need to also give them a really good reason not to. They've got this power and they want to do something, but what happens if they do it? And that was my joke about, okay, nobody can die anymore, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or, we're going to heal this person. There's always a consequence as you go on. What happens if you decide to, like you said, what happens if you decide to bump off Baron Von Badass?
Consequences and repercussions.
Baron Von Badass gets tossed into a volcano. And then the cosmic jerk comes back. Okay, well, now Baron Von Badass is just a fire aspected undead lich now, so go for it. But also things like, well, now that Baron Von Badass, you toss him in the volcano, well, that magic item he had is now causing that volcano to erupt. Good luck. So, very good questions. Very good questions.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump back in. We're going to continue talking about the Cosmic Jerk, starting with our roundtable discussion and question number 1, Phil.
Question number 1, who is your favorite Cosmic Jerk in media and in a game that you may have played?
I will preface this by saying I absolutely loathe the Cosmic Jerk, so it took me a bit to find one that I liked. I like Alistor. They're a bored demon lord who is really only helping the protagonist because he's bored. He literally says so. That the only reason he's helping the main characters and showing up at all is because he's looking forward to watching them try to help people and see those people fail in front of him. He wants to see people strive for goodness and hope and then watch their dreams crushed, and that amuses him. That's why he's there to help them. And it's well known that he cannot be trusted, and that's part of the problem with it. That's probably the only one in media that I really enjoy, except for the one that Bob's going to mention. In games, I avoid these like the plague in my games. But in my D&D campaign, we had a character named Sariad. They were the ousted ruler of another dimension. She was a very powerful sorceress, one of the most powerful magic builders in the universe. She had the ability to warp space, time, and magic. She was also the mother, aunt, or grandmother to several of the player characters in several of the campaigns, and had a dysfunctional relationship with her family. So she was lucky to show up and basically put the characters in weird situations because she needed them to do something, or because she was bored, or because she really thought it would just be interesting to, well, you and your brother haven't, talked to each other in 3 years. Yeah, Mom, that's because he's a super archvillain who tried to blow up the world 3 times. Well, you know what? Tonight you're going to talk. And, and he wouldn't come to you, so I'm just going to drop you into his lair, go for it. It was basically my excuse to just move characters around and get them in stories. The players liked her, so I brought her back a couple times, but that was really about the extent of it. Again, difficult to run with, but I think other GMs would have done a better job with it. So, Bob?
Yeah, as far as media goes, Phil and I were on the same page here, so I'm going to go to my 1A and say Loki, because, Loki is, God of mischief. What more needs to be said, especially when you go with the MCU incarnation. Hiddleston just knocks it out of the park. He's one of those characters And before they brought him into the MCU, in the comics, they were doing a lot of really interesting things with him as well. So I really enjoy the stories that they've been telling about Loki for like the last 15 years plus. I couldn't think of anybody as far as a game that I've played in. Phil's got one from way back, but honestly, man, I don't remember how much impact he had. But
I'm not even sure, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not even sure. I mean, I'll talk about it in a second. I'm not 100% sure even qualifies fully as Cosmic Jerk, but it comes close.
Go ahead.
Okay. For media, I think mine is pretty obvious. Q. I love Q. I have Farpoint, of course, is not his strongest moment, but I think that they've done a good job. I think the writers did a good job with him over the years. And I really I love John Delancey. Like, I think his portrayal of Q is fantastic. He is the correct amount of obnoxious. I love when I think it's when he gets his powers back and he like brings the mariachi band on board and
yes.
I love all that stuff. Like, I think it's good. Like, I like Q a lot. And then I like older versions of Q. I also like Q getting punched by Cisco. I think that was probably the most, that it was so early into the series, but it was absolutely the most Cisco thing possible.
Yeah.
That Cisco just punches him right in the face. And while he's a little creepy with Janeway, I do like that. I do like where they eventually went with that, like with the continuum and Q's progeny and stuff like that. So I'm definitely a fan of Q. I'm excited for Picard season 2. From a game, I picked Dworkin from Amber. I don't know if there are many different versions of Dworkin in Amber games. There is certainly a version of Dworkin that qualifies as Cosmic Jerk, as Dworkin wields probably more power than anybody actually realizes, and is either quite mad or just pretends to be quite mad to keep everybody thrown off guard. But in terms of cosmic power, Dworkin's definitely wielding it, or at least has it, because you very quickly realize that any confrontation with Dworkin is not going to go your way. So yeah, I did, and I have played Dworkin a few times as the doddering old man who just all of a sudden tears a hole in reality, things like that. So yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I like doing this topic. I do not routinely put Cosmic Jerks in my game.
Yep.
Like, it is not a thing where I'm like, okay, well, checklist, what things I should add to a game. Quick, I'm going to put a Cosmic Jerk in. It's not my go-to in almost any case.
That being said, I think a good Next Generation era Star Trek adventure, I think Q almost has to show up to be part of the tropes. And
if you're going to go full trope, yes. If you're going to go full trope, like if you're running a Star Trek game and you want to hit all the tropes, yes, Q has to show up in your game.
And that's where I think I would find it amusing as a player, because that's one of those, you're buying into the whole Trek thing. And so Q, you want to see Q show up. Plus, as you said, John Delancey is just charming. I think that's part of why Q is successful, is because if you played him like John Delancey's character, it'd be perfectly acceptable in the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. How about question number 2?
Brings us to question 2, which is, what's the biggest challenge in running or encountering the Cosmic Jerk?
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page with this one. It's
I'll say it, right?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You got to make this character likable to the players, and you got to figure out how to do that for your players. And I don't have a formula for this, because it's all gonna be based on who your players are and what they find amusing. And I agree with Jerry. I think that having the Cosmic Jerk show up on a TV show is one thing. Having a Cosmic Jerk show up in your game is a very different thing. And this is one of the cases where these two medias do not track together, right? This is a case where they deviate. And the cosmic jerk is a much harder thing to pull off in a game than it is to pull off on a show when you are kind of in control of everything, including the reaction of the characters.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think the big thing is, as Phil put in there, I think a couple things here that we kind of reiterate. Number one is don't make them the main adversary. Even in all of the times that Q shows up, Q isn't really the big bad. It's always Q involved in something else going on. Even in and even in Farpoint, Q is just there as kind of as a storytelling hook, and from that point on, Q is introducing the big bad, but Q is not actually the adversary they have to overcome. It's whatever Q introduces, and I think that's that. But also, I think the flip side of this is pay attention to your players' reactions. If it's obvious by the end of the first session with this character that they do not like it, just have them go away and don't bring them back. Don't bring them back again and see if it works again. Because there are.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't like them the last time, but you're definitely going to like them this time.
There are GMs that I would trust. A couple of them here that I would trust to bring in this kind of character because I trust them not to just be annoying, frustrating, whatever's. And there are GMs that if this character showed up, I would just be, you know what? I'll see you guys next week. Because it's just not going to be fun. It's got to be fun, and that's the thing. Make sure it's fun. The other thing I would just say is make sure they don't nerf the player's abilities or actions. Even if they move them to another, if all of a sudden you decide to take your Star Frontiers campaign and, Zorky shows up and turns everything into an episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, they still have their powers. They still have their guns, and that just works differently. Don't nerf what they could do. And I would really not suggest that, but some players would enjoy that.
I will suggest that you are better off going in the opposite direction. If Zorky shows up in your superheroes game and shunts them to a parallel dimension, turn their powers up to 12. Like you are way better off having to just deal with the players running around with all their powers like super jacked up than turning them off. Or
have them in a place where they're the only ones except for the other adversary with powers. Drop them into Victoria, drop the X-Men in the Victorian London where they're the only characters with mutant powers. They can have a ball there. Wolverine in the Middle Ages. And of course, Batman in just about any time. But that sort of thing. Yeah, good idea. I like that idea. Crank them up.
Crank them up. You're way better off. And you and I definitely have this pet peeve, right? We've shared this before. I do not like depowering characters as a way to like shake things up. It's a shitty way to shake things up.
Yep. All right. Question number 3. What is your secret sauce for the cosmic jerk?
I think for me, it's like you got to find a reason why they like the characters, right? Because this is going to be an asymmetrical relationship, right? The jerk is going to love the characters. The characters are going to dread the jerk. But there's got to be a reason. Like there's something like they're spunky. There's something, right? Like there's something about them. They're plucky, whatever that draws them to it. In my teens, I didn't understand in my teens, I don't think I understood in Star Trek what drew Q to the Enterprise. But now I'm just sure it's some sort of sexual attraction to Picard. Like I'm pretty sure that's just sexual attraction that Q's exercising. But you do need to find a way, right? Like there has to be a reason. Like why, out of everything in the universe, do they stumble upon the players and are like, you all are my peeps now? Like there's got to be a thing for that.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's even weirder, right? Like so. And you should tell the players that, like, when they show up, like, hey, no one's ever gotten this far in the dungeon before, or no one's ever done that in my little, test I created on the side of the road or whatever. Like, you guys are, you guys seem pretty, I'm pretty curious about you all. Like, I'm going to dig in and like, I you just made yourself a new friend kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's that to me, I think is like a big piece of what you got to work on for this character. How about you, Jer?
For me, don't make them all powerful. Make them much more powerful than the player characters, but don't make them all powerful. Have a reason why they need the PCs. maybe use their powers to put the characters in adventures they would not be able to do otherwise, and then bring them back. Especially if your players have talked about something like, gee, it'd be really cool to, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons, but you know what? We've never played a Spelljammer campaign, or I wonder what Dark Sun is like, or whatever. This character shows up and puts them there for a brief time, for one adventure, do something, and this is cool. We got to do this with our characters, and then come back. And if you liked it, then you can always go play that game again later on. But it gives a chance for everybody to kind of do something with their characters they hadn't done. Whether it doesn't have to be even going somewhere else, something the players have always wanted to try or do. Maybe even do something that the players had a massive loss and lost somebody and had no way to bring them back. Early on in your first adventure, Bargo kills off the woman with the stick at the beginning of the adventure, and you really want her back. Well, this is a good way to bring her back for some reason, with problems, of course.
Nice callback. The Bargle callback.
Yep.
Bargle, for some reason, Bargle and whatever her name is have been trending on Facebook for the last couple of weeks. They've been talking about that and character reactions, where this tells you my age. My whole thing was cool. I don't have to split the loot. So different reactions. But yeah, seriously, give them some reason to do that. Give them something. Make the players like something that they did. It doesn't have to necessarily benefit them in the long run. It can, but give them something and then bring them back to it again later on. Because then the next time they show up, it's like, they're there. But the player's like, that was a lot of fun last time they showed up. We did something really cool. We all got turned into merry men and got to run around on the holodeck. And, Worf got to break a loot, that sort of thing. Yep, do that thing again, that kind of thing. We all got to cosplay. So that was our look at the Cosmic Jerk.
We hope that if you're brave enough to try this adversary out, some of our advice will help you make it an enjoyable story. Good luck.
All right, let's check in one more time with the chat room before we head off to the conversation corner. So Senda said another key with the characters why the characters wouldn't use it has to be that they, in character, understand the consequences. Maybe it uses the life force of their friends. Will it change them permanently with no going back? Will they have to leave and join the continuum instead of staying with their friends? These are kind of good questions you can throw into the mix.
Really good, actually.
Really? The
Fun
chat room
give us
did
a good
not
question.
like the word jerk. All right.
I think we turned on the default
Yeah.
language filter. I think jerk just gets thrown in there with
That's fine.
with
That'll
some
be
of
fine,
those.
just fine.
So that's fine.
Yeah, and Andy says if they were running a game, they would totally put a Cosmic Jerk in.
I mean, it's a challenge. Like I said, it's not for everybody, but it can be done. Like
With a good GM, it can be pulled off.
Yeah,
it can be. It is like Ted's. It's like Ted's red cowboy boots.
Totally pulling them off. That's what you should be doing, Ted. You should be pulling them off. Ba-dum-bum.
I do like in the good place. There is also a red pair of cowboy boots.
Yes.
Okay.
I wonder if that was a nod to How I Met Your Mother. Or
How I
if
Met
that
Your
was
Mother?
just
I don't know.
random.
That's funny.
Well,
By the way, let me
yeah.
ask the question. When you see the town, especially in season 1, is that not Fairhaven?
There are definitely resemblances to Fairhaven, yes. Definitely resemblances. My guess is yes.
For those who just to bring everybody up to date on that, in those of you who did not get a chance to watch the Star Trek Voyager watch party with us, Fairhaven was a fictional holodeck community that the Voyager crew made up. And in The Good Place, it looks like they used a lot of the same set, which is amazing. Just
Yeah.
It's really cool
Good
that they
times.
used the same set and left them there, I think, deliberately. So just for not everybody's seen that part of Voyager.
Yeah.
So
No. It is most noted for the first Fairhaven episode, which includes the infamous delete the wife
Yep.
reference.
Yes. That was glorious. Oh, Janeway. Anyhow, yeah, if I was going to, I would do a Cosmic Jerk character if I was running a game, but I would do the obnoxious helpful one who really wanted to, like, loves the party and like is a huge fan. It's like, I want to help. And just fucking makes everything worse. Causes chaos.
I've decided to become an adventurer.
That's right.
Yeah.
You've what? Yes, I've decided to become an adventurer, and I'm joining your party.
But.
I mean, there's always been a fan theory, and I don't think it's that Loki's entire motivation in the Avengers was to make sure the Avengers were ready to take on Thanos when he showed up. That's the reason. That's the reason Loki doesn't use his powers to his best against them, and so on and so forth. I don't. While that would be wonderful, I don't think that I don't think that anybody was planning that, and B, it doesn't fit with other stuff that's going on. But that's exactly the kind of thing that could happen.
Yeah.
The adversary could. Oh, cosmic adversary is a reason the player characters got together in the first place.
Sure. Cosmic Jerk
Yep.
puts a group together.
Yep.
There you go.
There you go.
Let's
I like
Avengers
that
this
too.
thing up.
Oh, that was one you wanted to mention, Phil. Beyonder. In our discussion beforehand, we talked about this, the Beyonder.
I don't know if he's so in the first one. He's definitely not a cosmic jerk because he's not really much of anything. He's like more like a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
And in the second one, I think there's a couple issues in Secret Wars 2 where he's a jerk, but then like sometimes he's just a dude, then he's a baby, then like that series is terrible.
All over
Like
the map.
there's nothing there. I can't mine anything out of that series because it's Secret Wars 2 is bad.
Yes.
Bad.
Very, very bad. Not good. Very
Very
bad.
bad. Very bad. Very bad.
The first one, very good.
Yes.
The second one,
Very,
bad.
very bad. Yeah.
Yes.
Secret Wars 2 sucks. Yeah.
All right.
and to be clear, we're talking about both the 80s Secret Wars and Secret Wars 2, not the later one.
Yeah, not the aughts.
Not the aughts
Teens.
one, because the aughts Secret Wars 2 is less bad. Might be good.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it, but it's an interesting idea. But the 80s one's bad.
Yeah.
Just bad.
Just bad. All right. Let's jump on into the conversation corner here. All right. So as I stated up top, for anybody who did hear it, I don't remember if that was during the gap when the show wasn't actually streaming. Surprise. I finished Community. While I enjoyed the show overall, season 6 was underwhelming. There are a lot of problems with it in my mind. But overall, enjoyed the show. Glad I watched it. I finished 3 seasons of The Good Place now in a span of like 36 hours.
Dude.
It does that.
It's compelling. I literally got to the end of an episode and was like, oh, I got to know what happens in the next one. And then finally I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, I got to go to bed. Tomorrow's Tuesday.
I don't want to give anything away for Jerry because I know Jerry's not as far along as you are, but Maya Rudolph is also hilarious.
Yes, Maya Rudolph is awesome. It's just so well written. The actors are all great. The characters are all great.
I think it's the thing that we talked about before the show, which is I think a lot of the episodes, especially during season 1 and early season 2, the story of the episode ends and they kind of begin the next episode and then roll the credits. And that's why it's tough to not watch the next episode, because you get a little bit of this is another story starting. And then, especially when you're streaming it, and I'm like, wait, did I miss the end of the last episode? Nope, there's the credits. And then it starts the next one, I think, which is a really good writing technique and a good gaming technique.
Yeah.
To give them a little taste of what's coming next week.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good times. 6 episodes through Cowboy Bebop, I think. Really enjoying that. It's a good time. I will probably by Friday knock out the remaining 4 episodes, finish that up. Prodigy is entertaining. I know there's some people that are having some problems with it, and not everybody's getting into it. There's a variety of reasons. I mean, it's definitely aimed at kids. It is designed to be a kids show to show on Nickelodeon for a younger audience, but I'm enjoying where they're going, and I'm looking forward to seeing the development of the quote unquote main character so far, Dal. It is an ensemble cast, so it's not like there's just one primary character. But Dal's kind of been the focus of the first couple of episodes, just from the nature of the way the story started. And he's not really a likable character yet. He's got a lot of flaws. He's got a lot of problems, but I can see the trajectory that they've got planned out for him. Like you can see where they want to go. So I'm looking forward to watching them do it. And of course, Discovery season 4 started with a bang. I know there's some people that did not enjoy that. But I found it to be entertaining. I'm enjoying it and looking forward to the rest of it. I did some brick therapy. I built the Lego pirate ship that I just got. That was a fun build. It looks really cool.
I want to see that in detail.
Yeah, it's. I'll take a couple of pictures and send them to you. I'll put them in the Slack channel. That was a fun build, and it looks really cool. It came out nice. And then, as Phil mentioned, we sat down to do some Cortex world building. I like doing what we did, where we sit down and we brainstorm high level, like what is this scene, setting going to be like? All right, we're going to have a bunch of systems that are all in close proximity to each other. And, we've got like a primary planet in each one of them that we're going to detail with, like, what is the biome situation on this planet? What it is about this planet that's interesting? What kind of species are on it? And that kind of stuff. And I love doing that kind of world building. It's a lot of fun. And I think when you do that before you play a game, you get, if everybody's contributing to that, you get a lot deeper investment when you get to character development in session 0. You get a lot deeper investment from the players in what's going on because they helped put the whole thing together. It's just a process that I really enjoy. And I'm looking forward to getting into the Cortex nitty-gritty as well. I got to start reading through some of that book. But definitely looking forward to it. It was a fun session. What about you, Jerry?
I'll start with, I also enjoyed Cortex. I love community world building in general. I mean, there are games about it, like Microscope, but I just like it as a thing. I like the way that Phil did it, where he gave us each a 3x5 card and said, okay, design a world. There's 4 worlds. Each you design one of these worlds. Just design the biome and the structure and what about it is involved with ancient technology. And then we read them all off. He took them all back and gave us each a different one, not the one that we worked on, and said, okay, now create the species for that world. And so each world has their own alien species, and we tied each of them into how they relate to the ancients. And so we ended up with what? We ended up with a near-human race. We ended up with reptiles that had spines. We ended up with reptobirds and rock people, I think.
Yeah.
On the 4. As just 4 of the races that we could be, that we don't have to be. It was a lot of fun because it gave people a chance to kind of explore and design and so on. And the fact that you built this world, but now you're designing a race for somebody else's world. And that was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Cowboy Bebop, I'm on episode 9 of 10. I figured at midnight last night it was time to go to bed. So I'm enjoying it. I enjoyed the anime a lot. This is different than the anime, but it in no way ruins it. I think that you can enjoy both of them. And I think they definitely captured the look of the show. They captured the setting of the show, this kind of Firefly-esque kind of backworlds Mars thing, or backwards like Western thing. I actually get a little better feel for the world of Cowboy Bebop with the TV series. I get a better feel for where they are and what's going on. But characters show up that I liked, and the action's fun, and it's neat. The spaceships are cool. It's a lot of neat stuff. It's definitely a gameable universe. You could definitely run a game in this thing. I did my own brick therapy. I've been looking at cleaning up the basement every week. I get a little more done, and I'm working on redoing the Lego room. And I'm looking at taking a lot of Lego sets that I have that are some of the sets that aren't complete buildings. A lot of the sets, like the Friends sets, that are basically just, with the Friends sets, you're lucky if you get 2 walls and a roof, as opposed to some of the bigger Lego sets where you get a full building. And so I've been collecting on eBay various little sets, and I'm going to be building actual full Lego City style shops and stuff using some bits. So I've got a whole bunch. I think I've got like 18 Lego sets coming to me in the next couple of days that I bought all cheap on eBay. So I've been doing some design work, trying to figure out how to make them all fit on the standard. Lego has their own, like, a building fits on this kind. A building for this city is going to fit on this kind of a template. And so you have an idea of, so that it can all line up together. And so I've been working on that, which has been a lot of fun. It's kind of the, rolling up your RPG character sort of thing ahead of time for the Lego sets. So been playing a lot of Minecraft, just kind of exploring the world. Thanks to Tony, who the Rainmaker, who gave us all basically unlimited power. It's easy to do my favorite part of Minecraft, which is exploring. But yesterday I found there's an area where for some reason the world spawned and the top 8 layers of this big plane were missing. So it's all just exposed ore. So I've been shamelessly mining the ore. And Bob and Phil helped me build some machines the other night and get things up and going. So I've been having fun with that. I actually started The Good Place last week and got up to a couple episodes into season 2. And that was just something I did sitting down to kind of have in the background, and ended up watching, like I said, all of season 1 and part of season 2 in one sitting. It's very, very bingeable. Watch Prodigy. I think episode 5, which was last week, was a nice step in the right direction for what I'm looking for out of a Star Trek series. I think that they did a good job of making most of the characters more well-rounded. They did some cool stuff. They kind of finally got the band together, and Dale showed some promise. He backslid a little bit, but they corrected some of that at the end, and I liked that. And Bisco, of course, started out great. I love, without giving out any spoilers, I love it. While I do see the complaint that people have that it seems like every season of Disco is, oh my God, we have to stop a threat to time and space. That's what Disco is. And enjoy it, because the characters are wonderful. The settings are interesting. I have no idea who the adversaries are this season, but they came out strong. And the characters have all advanced a little bit. They've all grown, but haven't changed. And even some of the characters that weren't on, that you didn't expect to see this season, they've gone to show what's going on with them in the background. So should be fun. Anyway, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's episode. And of course, we're gearing up for tomorrow, because what drops tomorrow?
Hawkeye.
Yeah, it's huge.
So,
as if I don't have enough to watch.
All right. There's a lot of overlap here, so I'm gonna just try to bounce through these. Cowboy Bebop, I'm loving it. I'll say this: if you're a Cowboy Bebop purist, don't go back and watch the anime. It's also on Netflix. If you just like Cowboy Bebop, right? Watch the live show. I think it's fantastic. I'm enjoying it immensely. I don't have any complaints about it. I'm just for me, it's pure joy. Just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Before Cowboy Bebop dropped, I was watching some season 1 X-Men the Animated Series. Animation's a bit rough.
Will be.
It's not exactly accurate to how some of the characters' powers work. But you can see that these writers had clearly read past X-Men episode issues and were trying to work in stuff from past ones. And I don't know if I'll ever be happy that they went with Jubilee over Kitty Pryde. Because I'm a huge Kate Pryde. I'm a huge Kate Pryde fan. I have always been a Kate Pryde fan. So a lot of what you see with early Jubilee is a lot of what early Kate Pryde was. So not sure.
You also have to understand that what was going on at the time, though. I mean, Jubilee was the hot new stuff. She was running around with Wolverine in the comics. She was created by Jim Lee. So, I mean, there was a lot of... She was the hot new property at that time, so I can understand why they went with her. It made sense at that time to do it.
I get it. I'm a Kate Pryde guy myself.
Yep.
And for all of its flaws, that intro music slaps.
Still one of the best intro songs ever. Much like Cowboy Bebop. It's an intro song I rarely skip through. I did not skip through any of the Cowboy Bebop ones. I've only occasionally skip the X-Men animated series one. Most times I just let it play. I'm like, it's cool. So yeah, very much that. Disco season 4, episode 1. I'm 50-50 on this. While I understand, so first of all, I love Disco. I'll always love Disco. But while I understand that every Disco episode's like every season's one big giant thing, I thought the destruction of that whole planet was heavy-handed.
Oh,
spoilers!
Spoilers!
I just said some planet, right? I just thought it was a bit heavy-handed. I wasn't thrilled with it. There are other big ways to have been like, oh, this is a big thing. I just thought that one was like a little just like, I get it. We need an inciting incident. Bam. Like, I feel like you overdid. Like, I feel like you overshot the inciting incident on that. Like, I think we could have done I think we could have done something similar, but toned it down a bit. I would have been okay with. But that said, it is part of what Disco is. I totally love the opening. The opening sequence with the captain is fantastic. And the rest of it was good as well. Also, I'm pretty sure that 2 characters are in love on that show, and I think they tipped their hand in that episode.
Ship them.
What's that?
I said ship them.
Oh, I'm shipping those 2 hard. Like, as soon like I thought it, and then somebody posted it on Twitter, and I'm like, well, I'm glad I'm not the only person who picked up on that. Like, there are some glances during that show where I'm like, Anyway, I finished Narcos Mexico. I was actually super happy to finish it. I binged like 4 hours of it on Saturday night after I got my house cleaning done. Again, I know not everybody likes likes the type of show. I love this type of show. I really liked what they did with the. I think this is the last season of like the whole thing, and I have feels about that because I really enjoy the show, but like I assume it's a lot to put together. But I really enjoyed it. It did leave itself open actually for a 4th season. Like they could just pick it up and keep going with the Sinaloa cartel, but it was really good. It also brought to light some other historical things about Mexico during the 90s, which is when it takes place, which I actually thought was really well done as well. There's a plot line that runs through it that for the longest time I'm like, I don't understand what they're doing with this. Like, I understand the plot line. Like, the plot line's pretty straightforward, but I don't understand what the purpose of it is in the in this season. And they bring it together in the last episode, and it's like, oh, I did not realize that was a thing, and now I'm gonna go read up on it. Like, like when the episode was done, I did what I think they hoped it would do. I like opened Wikipedia and was like, I need to know about this now. So it was interesting that in that respect, but I really like Narcos Mexico. I will probably watch all 6 of those, the 3 Narcos Colombia and the 3 Narcos Mexicos again at some point. They're just really well done. Like, they're well acted. They're beautifully shot. I really like them overall. I finished The Good Place. I think when we last recorded, I was like 30 minutes from The Good Place finale. Like, I finished that. I'm going to tell you, Bob, brace yourself.
Yeah, I'm already girding for the punches.
I'm not going to lie to you. Bring tissues.
Oh yeah.
You will not be okay through the finale of that show.
I've already shed some tears. So,
I mean, I got to a point where I was like watching it. All of a sudden, something happened in the finale, and I was like, "Wow, I'm so not okay right now." Like, I'm really like, I was very moved by it. The other thing I did was downloaded for my PS4 Star Wars Battlefront 2 as a shoot 'em up game for my son and I to play. When we had the 360 here at the house, we were playing Halo in the evenings together, and I wanted something that we could sit and shoot things up with. So I got Battlefront 2 and we started playing it and running around, blowing up stormtroopers and blowing up rebels and stuff. My son started the campaign, and I didn't realize the campaign was going to be that good. I now have to go start the campaign because it's really good. Like, it's a cool story, and it goes places, and I was impressed with it. So I'm like, oh, well, it's not just a shoot 'em up. Like, it's also pretty good. Also, I need a lot of practice, and I think the campaign kind of weans you into the controls and shooting things, because I was kind of hapless out on the battlefield a bunch of times. I also am old and am lacking some of the twitch reflexes that my son is, so I routinely in points do not rack up as much points. Also, I usually let him play when the Jedi or Sith characters get unlocked. I let him play those, and you can kill a whole lot of people with those. So I think he like pads his score, but all the same, but all the same, it's a fun game. It's a fun game, and it was super cheap. I think for Xbox and PlayStation right now, it's like $4.99. Like for the digital download, like it was a steal, and it's beautiful looking. So I think that's mostly me. I think that's it.
Right.
I don't have anything else. What do you guys got?
Shoutouts.
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, coolio.
Let's roll into the Patreon shoutouts. Thank you so much to the old school DM, our very own Sean Merwin, the Mad Wizard, Troy Sandlin, Zach Goins, Carlos Martin, Chris Constantine, Cindy Moore, Eric Simon, Mirko Frolik, and Andrew Demps. And thank you to everybody for listening tonight.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
If you can't make the live show, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts. And take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as They're a Super Geek, Mastering Dungeons, Bones Thorn Obsidian, The FM Gamers, Pandas Talking Games, The Gnomecast, Jean Who Hustle, The Lounge, Bonus Experience, and the excellent back episodes of She's a Super Geek. You can and should also check out our amazing sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
Indeed, indeed. And before your cosmic jerk sweeps their hand and creates all sorts of chaos for your players, leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly on the old-fashioned emails, mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Hit us up on the Twitters. The show and the network is at Misdirected Mark. He's Robert M. Everson. He's GM Gerrymander. I'm DNA Phil.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. Zhenghu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhenghu Hustle. And Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Bamboo Lounge, and other special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
Meow.